Welcome to the Man-Ology Project podcast. I am your host, Quentin Crumby, and on this channel, we're going to be discussing what true manhood looks like as we understand our value, our identity, and our purpose as men using godly principles. Now let's get to it. Hello, welcome back to the Man-Ology Project podcast. I am your host, your boy Q, and with us today is a good friend of mine, business owner and author, Mr. Terrance Puryear. How you doing, my man?
Doing real good, man.
That's good. I'm glad to have you on here today with me, man.
Happy to be here.
I got a good topic for us. Me and Mr. Terrance, or as I call him, T. So y'all probably hear that a lot, my boy T. But I brought him on here, man, because we're good friends, and so we're always chopping it up and talking about men stuff and how should we be better and what can we do to be better and stuff. So I got a topic here. We just want to talk about, like, how do we actually handle being burned in life? The expectation for men and what is expected of men is extremely high. I know it's not talked about as much about for men. We praise, women a lot more and talk about how hard their job is as a mother and a wife and stuff. So men really don't get that type of insight on how difficult and how hard it is to actually be a man. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of dive into three different areas. So relationship, faith, and business. I feel that these are three areas that continue to put pressure on us as men, which is what I call fires. We're trying to be successful in our relationships, whether you're married or you're in pursuit of marriage. Definitely faith. Do I serve God? Do I not? Is God worth it? Is salvation worth it? So we're always in the tug of war with that. And of course, business. We're all chasing after that dollar. Everybody is on a grind these days. And so what happens is that sometimes, man, it doesn't come together. We're both entrepreneurs, so we both kind of really understand that some days, man, you put all that hard work in there and it just does not compute. Like, it doesn't measure up to what you thought the output would be. So we wanted to talk about that. What do we actually turn to? So we know most people turn to drugs, sex, violence, drinking. All these things are just very destructive in our life. And so what we want to do is kind of walk down that fine line and then talk about different ways that we can actually take that energy and create a better narrative around our life. So what say you on that, T?
And it is crazy because being burned by something, it basically means someone has fallen short. Something didn't go as planned. There's some disappointment. And for a man, it always comes back to the pride of man. His ego is bruised. Right. And being burned basically means I was engaging with fire in a way where I mismanaged my distance from it, and something that should have lit my room, or something that should have cooked my food, turned around and hurt me. And so usually when a man gets burned, it's usually in an area where he was vulnerable. So relationships, because you get really vulnerable with your friends, or a romantic relationship, you allow yourself to open up. When it comes to your faith, because you're giving everything over to God, and you're saying, I'm gonna trust God. Or in business, because so much of business is driven by the male ego. And so you're vulnerable, you're open. And when you get burned, when you're open, that's where you go back to those bad habits. And so I think what tends to happen when a man gets burned, he turns to mismanagement. And it could be any type of mismanagement. Like, sometimes a man will turn to overindulging in alcohol or substance abuse, or he'll turn to things that don't align with high morals, or but whatever it is, he turns to mismanagement. He turns to something that's not productive. And the reason why I think a man will do that is because the ego has been wounded, and we haven't been trained to recover from failure. We haven't, because we're taught that you don't mess up. You're strong, you tough it out. So when culture is saying tough it out, but internally you're feeling embarrassed or like a failure, what else will you do? You break down, and you turn to you run from responsibility. You run from management. You run away from things that have structure, to like classic man, and you hide. You hide where you were once proud.
Right.
Now you hide because now vulnerability has been exposed. So now I'm like in the biblical sense, now I know I'm naked, or now I know that
Right.
things are showing. You've seen that I failed now, and we don't know how to handle that. So what we tend to do is we run from the very thing that we should be running to. So instead of running to being a problem solver or to thinking critically, engaging with it and learning from failure, we run to mismanagement. We hide and we shield ourselves, and we numb the pain, we numb the embarrassment, and that's why we often find ourselves in bad situations,
Right.
making bad decisions, because we're running from responsibility. And I think for every man, it's different.
Yeah. Well, when you now, so when I look at, I'm reading a book. So I got this book. I don't know if you ever read this book, but this is, can y'all see that there? Maybe I have to back it up some.
There you go.
Well, it's Andy Stanley, and it's called When Work and Family Collide. So it's been upstairs for a minute. Normally, I just grab a book, and while I'm working and on my downtime, I usually just read a couple of chapters of whatever book I have on my desk. Well, this was a great book because I was like, we're having a conversation about men. These three areas of our life is where we probably dedicate the most uh, thought energy or thoughtfulness to, which is relationship, faith, and then the business. So with work and family collide, it's really a good analogy because basically there's two things that God left us with, that started us off on this earth with, and work was the number one thing that He gave men. Before He gave us any ladies, any kids, anything else, we had work. So we can see why the drive or the ego is attached to work. Work allows us to actually get those, the tangible kudos, the tangible attaboys, and basically everything that you can receive from business, a career. Everybody's going into entrepreneurship because of what it really gives you when you tell somebody else that I'm an entrepreneur. Like, you get so much, oh man, you this and this and this, and
It
it
does something
feeds,
for you.
it does something for men. I don't care if you just, pushing nickels around. When you tell that or post that or something like that, it literally builds up that ego. So uh the second thing that God gave us after work was then He gave us relationship.
Yeah.
So the real conflict, or where that collision is at now, is that how do we balance between relationships and business? And the thing is that I put faith in the middle because basically faith is the only thing that actually combines the two, that you can actually have, that you can actually find equal balance in both. So having God as center, basically will allow you to have balance in both. If there is no faith, which means if there's no relationship with Christ, then the balance is going to always be off. Your relationship at home with your family basically does not provide the tangibles that a man's ego actually needs to thrive.
Yeah.
So when we're talking about being burned, and we look at homes right now are a wreck, and basically what, 72, almost 70 something percent of the of homes are absent of fathers. And to go to your point, which is when the time gets going, gets rough, then I'm going to hide out.
Yeah.
I'm going to go and run away from it versus, going and finding myself to actually get educated so that I can actually be better at it.
Yeah.
And so what ends up happening is that collision, it starts to create quite a havoc. When you look at Adam and Eve, right after sin hit, the first two things that happened was that
Yeah.
men were going to have to actually till the ground. So God made it
Yeah.
easy. Stuff, the earth already, it
Yeah.
had actually reproduced itself to feed Adam. Like the
Yeah.
earth did it itself. He didn't have to do anything to the earth. He didn't have to till the ground. He didn't have to do all that stuff. The earth itself reproduced and provided for
Yeah.
him.
And you
After,
kind of just hit the nail on the head with that, because
yeah,
that's exactly the setup was. We call it entrepreneurship, but when God created man, He created man in His image, in
right,
His likeness. So God was a creator. He spoke
Right.
creation. He formed man. So he creates. So what he did was he said, I want man to create like I create. So I'm gonna
Right.
put you in charge of what I create and let you create some stuff. You don't need to do anything. So work ethic was perverted through error and mistake. So the
Yeah.
original work wasn't labor. It was stewardship.
It was boom.
And so
It was.
the moment he made a mistake, you perverted stewardship. Now it becomes work ethic. So we always brag about, I got a strong work ethic. You're making the best of a bad situation because technically we were never supposed to work like this. And so
Right.
when man makes mistakes, it's in his DNA to do that. So
Right.
men like to work. We like to produce a product. If that product is a paycheck, if that product is we have a product out, but we like to produce something and say, this is what I made with my
Right.
hands. This is what I
Right.
made with my time. I converted time and I produced a paycheck. I produced a house. I produced a haircut. Like we make something. And when we
Right.
make mistakes, it's in our DNA to malfunction in that same way.
Right.
And so
I mean,
the first thing that happened was God gave us work. And so we have to have a good relationship with work. So you talk about getting burned, and the first thing you talked about was relationship. I don't know what it is about relationship, but most problems that people have, it stems from malfunction in relationship. Like
yeah. Yeah.
it brings out the worst in us when our relationships aren't what we want them to be.
Yeah.
Seriously, the best of people become the worst of people when relationships are not healthy. And
Right.
so we get burnt when we get burned in relationship, we carry that around all day long. If you fell out with a friend, if you fell out with your spouse, if you fell out with your girl, you think about that, you mad all day.
You mad all day. You
Yeah,
and it's a crazy thing, and that's really what they were saying about those tangibles. And they were like, one of the reasons why relationships uh, take a dive, right? So Adam and Eve are the first couple that we can actually use as an analogy. Um, when Adam actually messed up,
yeah,
okay, soon as he messed up, what was the first thing that dude did? He blamed somebody. So
yeah,
see, and this just go back to your point, like is in our DNA from day one is to flee, right? So God came down, yo, hey, where you guys at? They were hiding, right? So men and the woman just following the man. She don't even know what she's doing, right? Because basically she didn't plunge us into sin. She just looked up and said, man, I can see that we have no clothes on. So something is jacked up. And the first thing he had to tell Adam is that, dude, like, who told you were even naked? And
yeah,
right there, well, this woman that you gave me. And then the woman said, well, the serpent, our DNA is based around if we can't do it right, then we start to deflect immediately. We start pushing the blame on anything. So, I mean, like drugs, violence, and all that stuff, just a deflection of not having any ownership. I think that as men, we to really get us away from having that type of collision is to really have ownership. And that ownership to me always start at day one, right? So that takes you back to your family and then what was actually produced in you and what did you come out of?
yeah,
Like whatever you came out of, if you're not totally healed, if you're not totally delivered, if you don't have a sound mind, um, you're basically gonna be able to be penetrated even that much more easier by the losses. So when stuff is not
yeah.
working right, if you don't, because I mean, you got some people who just fight through it and they just say, my life was screwed up, but I'm gonna fight through it. Once they actually get into a relationship, though, then that's when the crappy part of their life starts to show because
Yeah.
nothing presses you more than trying to build a relationship with somebody else.
And what happens when in that moment where that relationship falls apart and it exposes
Yep.
what is actually exposing is your foundation. Because
Yep.
you don't know how jacked up your foundation is until life happens to you, until the
Right.
wind comes. Like you can build a house all day and say it's strong. You can't say it's strong until the wind hits it. And so many
Right.
times the relationship is that wind. Losing your job is that wind. And once
Yeah.
it friction happens, once life happens to it, that's when foundation is tested. So sometimes there's cracks in our foundation and we didn't even know. We are here building businesses, building a relationship. And we never took a look at our basement to say, you know what, there's a leak right there where my dad wasn't there. Or there's a leak
Right.
right there where I was disappointed and no one didn't esteem me. And so when you don't deal with a leak in your a crack in your foundation, the whole
Yeah.
house is vulnerable. And the
Yeah.
house can be that relationship. The house can be that financial plan. Everything rests on the foundation.
Right.
And I think that's what happens, especially in relationships. The moment something pops off and happens, it's just like, oh, you didn't know you had a temper. Oh yeah, you got a temper. Oh, you
Right.
didn't know that you're bad with,
Right.
that you're reckless because you weren't tested by life. And then increases the shame. It's like you can't even recover. You were never taught to recover from failure because you were never given permission to fail. So had we have
Yeah.
given our men permission to fail and permission to cry and permission to be vulnerable, they could manage it better in their 20s and 30s. But because they were never taught to manage it and just to be tough through it, when life requires management skills and you don't have them, now you're 35 years old and that 5-year-old is having his tantrum for the first time in that marriage, and now you've cheated on your wife, or now you've
Right.
run away from that business because you never had a chance to be strong in those areas where you had vulnerabilities.
Yeah. I like the management piece that you speak of. And I'm even going to take that because that is probably one of the most intricate pieces. I think that we as men, I think we suffer from that. So I think we suffer from being to actually be able to actually manage these three major areas or components of our life that demands us to be at our highest or our best. So when you're in business, it requires you to be at your best. When you're serving God, you have to be at your best. Can you be perfect? No, but you have to be at your best, meaning that you have to humble, you have to take down. You know what I'm saying? It requires a lot of energy. And like you said, relationships are just one of the ones that if we look at relationship for what it really is, because a relationship with Christ literally presses on you. That's why a lot of people they'll live maybe a shallow life of Christianity versus a deep relationship with Christ. Because when you get into a real relationship with Christ, he's going to press on the crack foundation, right? Like he's only going after the crack foundation. Like, Jesus is not trying to be in your living room and in the family room and in the game room. He's going straight down to the basement and all around all 4 or 5 or 6 walls that you have around. And he's pressing up against that because basically he's letting you know that, you got a leak here. And the thing is that I want you to this is where that management comes in, right? If you're never taught to actually manage it, when you feel that you have a leak, you'll just sell it, My house got a leak in the basement, man. Dang, why y'all move, man? The basement was leaking, man. I just said bump it. Well, you could have
just move on.
you could have put an insurance claim in, or you could have had somebody come over and fix it. I mean, it was other things, but that's just not understanding how to manage it. We just throw money at it because that's easier for us to save face on anybody else. I don't want nobody to know I bought a limit. I don't want nobody to know this. I don't want nobody to know that. And it's like, you got to really take time out to actually understand that it's okay to be pressed on. I don't think that you become the best that you can be without being pressed. And relationships press you. Building a relationship with Christ, it presses you. Building a business presses you. The only thing is that men throw themselves into business because of the tangibles. Because they know that, man, if I work hard, I get my yes and I get my pat on my back today. The other two, you don't get that. When you walking in faith, you don't get a kudos today.
Yeah.
Jesus is not.
We want something that's going to boost our esteem. We look for something that's going to make us feel good about our contribution. And here's the thing: when it comes to when it comes to relationship, when it comes to finance, and when it comes to faith, at the end of the day, what the most important thing that a man must manage, and this is so important, a man must manage his decisions. Yes. Because really, when God put Adam and Eve in the garden at the very beginning of a thing, it wasn't so much that it was the tree or the fruit. It was a decision. I'm giving you a chance to make a decision. I never took a decision away from you. So I'm giving you a choice. I'm telling you what you shouldn't do. Here's a tree. Don't mess with it. Don't even go near, whatever. But if you do, there's consequences. So he could have easily just taken that will out of man to even be curious about it. Why did he leave the curiosity there? Why did he leave it as an option? Because me being a God of integrity, I never want to lord over you and take away your choice. The best part of being human is you get to choose things. Right. And so as a man, we have to learn how to manage our decisions. Anything that you don't manage, eventually you will mismanage it. Yeah. And so things fall apart because decisions were mismanaged. And so when a man hasn't been given permission to fail and learn from it, he'll mismanage that learning opportunity and he'll do whatever he's going to do, and it doesn't end well. Like
Yeah.
relationships are a perfect example. If you mismanage a relationship, it's going to be chaos. Like everything must be managed. I think men just want we have a tendency to want things the way we want them. We want to control it. It's going to be what I say.
Yeah.
It's going to be how I want it, and that's just the mismanaged. That's perverted management.
Right.
That's manipulation. That's control,
Right.
and that doesn't produce the fruit of a balanced life. And so
Right.
when you don't manage like for example, you can be married and mismanage sexual intimacy. Because
Yes.
if your wife's not in the mood, what you gonna do? You gonna go cheat on her? Like you
Right.
mismanage your sex drive. Or say,
Right.
for example, she wants to talk
That is
about,
so
are we gonna
true.
redo the basement of the drapes? And you saying we ain't spend the money. Okay, why can't it be a partnership? You just mismanage communication. Anything that you have to approach everything from the perspective of management. So what do
Right.
management skills look like in a relationship, in money? Most of the time when we go to a job, we're stripped of our management and we just do what we're told.
Right.
And so for a man, it's like something breaks down in you a little bit. So when I can't control things on the job, I'll go find somewhere else to control it, where it make me feel like a man. You're
Deflection. Right.
hurting, sir. Like
Right.
who hurt you? Who burns you to where because your boss told you what to do? Now you're gonna go home and beat your wife, or because
Right.
So anytime your ego was damaged, you don't know how to self-reflect and say, this is a me thing. This isn't
Right.
the job. This isn't the economy. There's something in me that needs to mature. There's something in me that needs to be a problem solver here. There's something in me that needs to learn from this. And from there, you grow and you evolve and you become a better version of who you are. But when you don't have those management skills, you just think they out to get me or they don't understand it. And
I mean,
you
that's
now you're
really what it
mad.
is. Right. That's really what it really becomes. And that's why I said and use that, which is it automatically becomes where everything is more of an attack than actually some actual accountability for your actions of what you have going on. And when I look at being burned, or if I look at, life throws all these curveballs. I mean, me and Melissa was married, and in the beginning, I probably lost like 14. I got laid off from 14 jobs I got laid off from, which was like crazy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was literally like a banana. It was like so crazy. We just couldn't even understand what in the world was going on. But the one thing that really struck me is that, and this is just going to your management piece, is that how I was able to manage every time that happened. Coming home, uh, grinding it out, going and not sending out resumes, taking resumes to a place, because I have a wife now. And so what I want to do is I'm still trying to build or create this space for her to feel secure. But like you said, you can turn around and mismanage something. And then what that happens is it just turns out that something in me had never been healed. Like, and I know, guys, I know, look at me. I know we're perfect in every way, but the thing is that, and only women are damaged and hurt and bruised and beat up. And that's just not the truth. The truth is that you have many women who are in that place because of broken men who have just dumped on them their inability to actually hold themselves accountable. So
Yeah.
because remember, women were created for men. Like, they were created for us, which means that God actually said, hey, they're actually under your protection. They're under they're under your care, not for you to put your foot on top of them. Submission didn't mean that you actually control them or run over them. Submission really just meant that you create this space where caring, loving, they can come broken and be healed under the atmosphere that you created. But as men, if we're burned, singed, torched, and like you said, you don't really know that when you spend all your time building a business, you don't really know, you don't see any of that. It's
Yeah.
not until you actually have that family life,
That's
or have kids, or something that literally doesn't press on just the exterior, because
yeah.
relationships, it press on the interior, which is, that the real meaty part of you that's compassionate and loving and stuff. It presses on if that is there or if it's not there. So you can't just say that,
Man.
oh, I love everybody, I'm compassionate, I'm this. Your family will press on you, and when you don't have that to actually produce, falls right what you said. You're back frustrated because basically I can't produce what someone is asking me to produce. My wife
Man,
wants me. Go ahead.
you just said a thing. So here's the thing. The worst possible moment for you to realize, oh snap, I'm drunk, is when you're already behind the wheel of the car and you're driving. Like that's
That's
bad
a
timing.
that's
So
a
you
bad.
already got the marriage, you already got the kids, and now you realize I've never been taught how to be a man. That's a bad situation to be,
That's a
and it's dangerous
bad.
because now everybody's vulnerable to where you lack education. And so
Right.
I like what you said earlier. So it's like most, even if you were to talk about how women were made for men, try having that conversation with a man who ain't spiritual. He gonna pervert that whole thing you just said. Even a woman would look like you can't even have that conversation until we fix what's malfunctioned in you, because you're gonna
Right.
interpret that from a mindset of perversion and think when I say
Right.
women is oh you think women are less. See, you're not even able to have this healthy conversation
No.
because y'all are fallen nature. You're fallen man, and this, like the Bible says, is foolishness to you. And
Right.
so it comes down to, how do you fix the broken man? Because in order to start putting windows and buying furniture, you can't do none of that till you fix that crack. Here's the
Yeah.
thing: some people don't prioritize that as being important. So you go ahead and you're gonna buy the furniture anyway. You're gonna put up the drive. You see, there's a crack in the foundation. Oh, we'll get to it later. And that's why
Yeah.
that's not being a masterful builder. You gotta prioritize a healthy foundation. Here's the thing: most people don't care about foundation because don't nobody see foundation. They can't, but you see foundation. God sees your
Dude,
heart, but because
that's
people
what's
can't see it, you don't flex there. You want to
right.
polish what people can see and clap for and give you applause for. So I'm gonna make sure I
Right.
get a big house, a nice car, good clothes, nice hair. I'm gonna make it look really good, even though it's on a weak foundation. You okay with a weak foundation? Like, who builds on a weak foundation? Somebody who doesn't prioritize safety. And so as a man,
Exactly.
you
That's
don't
good.
prioritize the fact
Good.
that your foundation will make your house better. So it's like we
Yeah.
have to start with foundation. I can't talk to you about furniture, drywall, upstairs bathroom. We got to talk about this foundation because we're all broken people. We're born fallen. So how do you fix a broken man who's broken by relationships? Because he has 15 years of being 15 years as a teenager. He's had 15 years of broken relationships or healthy relationships. Did you see a
Right.
healthy marriage? So you were exposed to some things by 15 to 20 years old. We got to heal that. Number one,
Right.
sir, you have permission to heal as a man, right? So most men don't know, and we're in a different time now. But back in the day, we're not having dialogue about healing men. Dude, that's soft, right? So we ain't talking about that. We get out there and go to work.
Right. I
Put
was
some
gonna say,
effort.
raise up,
And
big
so,
man.
but you broke these men. You broke a whole generation of men, and you wonder why we have a rape culture. You wonder why,
Right.
you wonder why things are the way they are, where consent is an issue, because you had a whole generation of broken men, and you never took time to heal them. And that,
Right.
but then we want to turn around and judge their decisions. Well, he cheated on his wife, but what did his dad do? What did his
Right.
uncle do? What did the neighborhood men show him? So it's like we have to
Right.
have compassion for the broken man, even if he doesn't raise his hand and say, I'm broken. That's the hard part, because a
Right.
man won't always raise his hand and say I'm broken, but we have to have enough non-judgmental perspective to say, how can I heal him without hurting his ego? Because he can't let go of that ego. How do I do that?
Right.
That's a hard thing to do. And I think what you're doing through your project is you're trying to heal where men are broken, even if they're not putting their hand up, and giving them permission to say, it's okay that you don't got it all together, sir. Like, I know you tough, I know you strong, I know you smart, all that stuff you got it going on. But it's okay to be better in this one area of your life. And it's okay to
Right.
talk about it. Give him
Right.
permission, because society hasn't given him permission to be vulnerable. His,
Right.
his his girl probably hasn't given permission to be vulnerable. She's tearing it down, and she's snapping the neck. So there's a
Right.
lot
Right.
coming at this guy, and he already damaged goods. But deep down inside, he may be a solid guy. So first, it's like, how do we heal that broken man in his relationships? How do we heal that broken man in his faith? And how do we heal that broken man in his finances? We got to take a look at the foundation. Where are the cracks?
Right.
Where are the
And the
cracks
thing
in
is
relationships?
this. So now when you look at guys, so now, we're telling guys, yo, dude, we know that life throws all these heavy weights. It's extremely tough.
Yeah,
When things don't add up, and then, the wife or the girlfriend or whatever your situation is, somebody is all over you to fix it. And so then that's when the rubber meets the road, is that fixing part. And that's going to always tap back into, like you said, that foundation, right? And you're right. So that's what this podcast was really created. And I'm very happy that you just gave me something, which is giving men permission.
yeah.
So I think that literally is something I'm going to add. That's probably what my tagline is going to be. I think I'm putting that on there, is that, because I told you I've been trying to figure out what's the better, but I'm going to
There it
this
is.
podcast. There it is. That's it. But
And
it's
I'll
just
tell you
giving me.
what, like when you're fixing foundation, the first thing you have to fix, and this is just my perspective, my experience. The first thing that you have to fix in a man when his foundation has those in need of repair, fix his decisions, because you can
Yes.
decide your way out of anything. I'm gonna say that
Right.
again. You can decide your way out of anything. It's
Right.
when it's like I have to fix how you make decisions. Life's gonna happen. Bad
Right.
things are gonna happen, but you have to make decisions on how you are going to engage with it and respond to it. So I gotta fix your decisions. You can't pop off at the mouth every time you're stimulated to do so. You can't always be ready to fight all the time. Now you can put hands. Sometimes it's necessary to put little hands,
Yeah.
give them all the
You,
smoke. But
yeah,
sometimes,
you
what are
had
the
to get some
consequences?
smoke.
I showed up with all the smoke. Now I'm in jail, and now it's bail money
Right.
to get you out. It ain't cute no more. It ain't cute when you're in jail fighting for your virginity, homeboy. So it's like
Right.
we have to make better decisions, and we have to mentor men in decision making. Because if you can make the right decisions, everything from there will. Now your foundation is starting to heal. Because I decided I ain't gonna cuss you off today, even though you really deserve it. I'm not
Right.
going to. Not because I'm scared I'm gonna go to hell, because I want a better foundation. It's
Right.
my perspective has to change.
Right.
I really should my lady, she's saying some things, maybe she's in an emotional place in her life, and she's saying some things, maybe I've done something, I gotta be careful how I engage with her. Don't try to argue with a woman, you're gonna lose every time, sir. So it's like, do I just sit back and kind of, what, you just said a lot, let me process the things you just said. It's kind of hard for you to hear me say that I'm a liar. It's kind of hard for me you to say that I'm a failure, that I'm insensitive, whatever it is. And so let me process everything you just said, and maybe we can come back and talk about that's a decision, not to
It's a
sit there and
decision.
fight it out. Or so whatever it is, let's decide differently. And this is the thing, not just that one decision, because you don't build a house off of one brick. That foundation is a lot of cement. So I have to make a lot of decisions to repair
Right.
what's broken in my foundation. So that's the first thing, is address how you make decisions. And then what do you lean on to make decisions? We talked about faith. That
Right.
means I gotta decrease. That
Right.
something else can increase. So I'm have to lean on faith. Maybe I'll lean on the wisdom of some brothers who've been alive for a long time, or maybe
Right.
the ego has to die. I gotta lean on them to influence what my decisions.
Right.
So a lot of us are starting from scratch because we didn't have this growing up. We didn't have people we could lean on, and a lot of men were raised by women. We were raised by single moms, and so we've gotten the perspective of a
Right.
woman. We've never had the perspective of a well balanced man.
Right.
And so it takes a lot for a man to humble himself and admit, I might need some help in this journey called life. That's a decision you made, to seek counsel, to seek
Right.
to seek advice.
And
And
it's
so
okay. I
it's
mean,
okay.
I think that's, I've learned, in this journey with this podcast and just, talking to a lot of guys. And I'm finding out that on a one-on-one, guys really do have their hand up. Like you just can't see it, right? It's invisible, but when I'm talking to them, they got two hands up. Some of them got their
Yeah,
hands up with their feet up. And it's like, definitely, dude, I actually need to hear this. I mean, I told you, we're friends. So I've told you many a times, like the gym is my hotspot for just kicking it with guys, man, and getting a feel on, how to help and what can I do, and extending myself out, giving my number out to guys who first time meeting them, but just leaving myself open to just give my experience of not only being 45 years old, having 23 years of marriage. I got 2 kids. Uh, I've grown up in church all my life. I also didn't live for the Lord for a large amount of my time. I smoke, I drunk. I mean, all these things. I got like all these things on my list, and I can actually
yeah,
tell you. So what happens is that a lot of people get it confused because I'm this nice guy here, but I had a temper. I fought a lot. I was a tough little cookie. But that was something that was broken in my foundation. That was from my dad. Like you said. And the good thing is that I recognize it because you're right. We know what the cracks are. Everybody else can't see it, but I know what it was.
yeah,
I understood that one thing I couldn't do is I could not take on the responsibility as the head of a home and not have self-control. Like,
man.
like I couldn't tell you I had all the pieces put together, right? Because nobody knows how relationships and marriage and stuff is going to work. But I knew one thing that was not going to be able to work because I saw my mom and dad have that. So I saw my dad
Yeah,
foundation was broken with not having self-control or having a short fuse, a temper. And so him and my mom got divorced when I was 10. So of course I'm looking like, well, I'm drinking and doing my thing, but I'm thinking, hey, before I get married, it's 2 things that's going to happen. I'm going to live for God because my mom and dad didn't. So I'm just literally trying not to have get a divorce, right? So I already got no rhyme or reason. All I could think of is I'm not getting divorced. And there's 2 things that was missing from my mom and dad. And it was My dad, it was no self-control, and then it was no relationship with Christ and leaning to Christ's understanding for how to operate as a husband in a household. So, dude, like I said, I'm doing my own thing, but those were my two things. So, when
Those are
I
your
told you,
vulnerabilities. Yeah.
listen, those are my two things. But the thing is this, it's okay, fellas, to be able to look at something as you're vulnerable at. Just grab one guy. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to go and, put out this big old, get on here on Facebook and tell everybody your business and all that stuff. But everybody has a guy in their life that they can actually lean
They
on.
should.
And I was going to say that, but if you don't, then you do have like podcasts out here that you can research. Like, don't just listen to every podcast. I'm not telling you that my podcast, no, research. Follow the person who's talking, see what they're going, reach out to them, find out, because you don't want to go with, the image. Like, don't follow people because of image. You want to follow people because of reality. What is their reality? So sometimes you have to actually get into somebody's personal space, because if you're serious, if you reach out to me and I don't know you, but you reach out to me and say, dude, I need to get in contact with you, and I think that I need to be part of your circle, then I'm gonna give you my number, because first of all, you saw something. Like, you saw something over here. So my thing is that why not go ahead and let you get the field view, whatever you're looking for. I'm gonna give you access to see it. If you see it, then now I can become an actual tool or a help aid for you. And I always say this, and I told you that when first time we met. Just because it looks like you're coming to me for something, it always works both ways. God designed it that way. Relationships are always built like two-way streets. Something's going in from you, something's going in from me.
Yeah.
I'm pulling something out of you. You're pulling something out of me. I don't care if it's a straight hood dude that's on the street. If you hook up with him, you may not be as tough. He may be able to teach you how to have some street awareness. Not saying that you're fighting and shooting and killing, but awareness for protection for your family. You may have grown up in a wealthy situation and you don't even understand how to have awareness. And this guy you might become friends with him, and he just teach you, like, dude, you got to start being more aware, bro. You just walking around. And so what it does is that you find yourself now, man, I've been helping you for the last 5 years. And now my wife is telling me, man, babe, you're so, your head is on a swivel. When did you start walking around like that? Well, basically because you've thought that you were helping this young guy who from this hood and streets and all that stuff. And what ended up happening is that some of the qualities that he actually has around awareness, because that's one thing that live in the streets. Like, if you from that hoodish urban area and stuff, that's a one quality, dude, that you just don't find anywhere else. It's having actually awareness. My sister always says that out in California. She was like, bro, one thing Detroit taught me was to have that Detroit sense. Like, you have an awareness around things going left. So, you hear 50 blocks over, two dudes going at it. It's like, oh, I gotta go. It's like, what you hear? I heard something. I gotta get out of here. It's just our awareness of what you have. And so the thing is that you can always glean from each other. And then all we're trying to do is actually help each other process. You will get burned. I got burned. T got burned. Our dads, our families, this, that. You're gonna take some hits. Do not think that I'm not going to take a hit, or why am I always taking hits? I promise you, if we put all the men on one big old 10,000 every day, we put different men on there, we'll all talk about all the hits that we've taken over the years. And I'm saying this because T said it. It boils down to the decision.
And the thing is, it's like a lot of people don't want to get burned, so they won't ask. And I respect anybody. Seriously, I respect anybody who will reach out and ask for help, because it's like, number one, if there's someone who's listening, it's like, I applaud that. I think you're the man for that, because it takes courage to be vulnerable, especially when that didn't work out before. When you tried to be and it didn't work out, and for you to try, I respect that so highly.
Right.
But when we avoid that vulnerability and we avoid sharing our story, you're not going to be tough because of your resistance. You're going to lack it because you didn't engage and learn something from it.
Right.
So when someone is saying, like you put it really well, I had a past. I used to do this. It's like now you're giving me permission to not be perfect. And sometimes that's all I needed. So you're telling me that you made mistakes. You're telling me that you didn't have it all together. It's cool that you got it made, and that gives me hope. But the fact that you didn't always have it all together is what really resonates with me when I'm like, okay, that means my situation can change. The best thing you can give a man who's broken is hope that things can be different. Because all they've seen is a track record that has told them otherwise, and a society that tells them otherwise, and a culture who says, so when you give somebody a different perspective, now that's why sometimes when I'm real negative, and I can be that way, I'm real negative. I want to wallow in my negativity. I don't want, I just found out some bad news. Don't give me hope because I'd rather be negative. I want to stay here because why don't you give me hope? I'm accountable that I can make a better decision and maybe have a better outcome. I don't want that accountability. Let me be negative. Don't tell me no good stuff. I would prefer to sit here and do what I know I should not be doing, making bad decisions and not worried about consequences. Because if you give me hope by telling me if I do the right thing, it can get better, now I'm going to be accountable. There's something in me that is going to connect with that hope. And so a lot of men will run from that because the moment you tell them it can get better, they know they can't turn that off. They can't unsee that. They can't unhear that. And so when you say, man, I used to have a bad situation. I was locked up. I lost a job. I was laid off 14 times. When you say that, it's like, so this don't have to be where I die. This don't have to be where it stops for me. Now you give me an option. So now I got to make a better decision because now there's another outcome I may be. So it's like the way to heal a broken man, expose him to the turnaround, expose that man to how, yeah, man, I was in that same situation. Because too many dudes out here, especially people who were supposed to be mentors and supposed to be leaders and supposed to be fathers, they lied to these men by saying, I've always had it together. When I was your age, I worked hard. No, man, when you was my age, you talk back to your mama. It's like lying to these men. So when that man fails, he has nobody to relate to because everybody's Superman. So when you show him Clark Kent, he's looking like, oh, I can be a hero too. I can have a nice family too. It may not be Q's family, it may not be T's family, but I can have something for me that works for my life. And now I'm leaned into that. Now I'm gonna reconsider my decision making. Now I'm all in because now I've given you hope. And so one thing that's important is even if a guy has messed up and made some mistakes, the number one thing a man wants to do after he's messed up is for somebody to forgive him. It's like, dude, you know your girl. Now you want to call Q because now she kicked you out the house, and now you sad. Now you got the boo boo face. Is it now? Now you want to do better. Or now you got to get locked up. Now I got to live right. God, I promise if you get me out of this, Lord, I promise I'll never. It's like once you in trouble, now I was like, don't let it get to that point where your vulnerabilities have led you down a road of mismanagement to now it's like consequences are starting to kick in. And that's that's the biggest trick in the book. The biggest trap is when a man is tempted but doesn't see the consequences. And then he messes up, and then the consequences come. Hey, we're here to collect on your future. You're going to jail. You got that girl pregnant. You got an STD. You about to lose your job, sir. It's like when the consequences knock. Now we're looking for help. Don't let it get to that point. If you know you're messing up, if you know that you're vulnerable in the area, seek out and talk to a brother. Seek out and talk to somebody who can help you before you make that mistake. Because you may be able to recover from that mistake, but if you can avoid it in the first place, I would say shoot for that. Life is going to hand you tests anyway. Don't do extra credit. Don't add burden to life is already going to have many troubles. Don't add to that. So if you feel yourself about to make a mistake, it's okay to lean on that faith a little bit and spend that time with God and pray about a thing to really make sure God change my perspective. Let me see this thing right because I'm about to pop off. I'm about to do the wrong thing. Or talk to your brother. Talk to Q. It's okay to be vulnerable to avoid that pitfall because that's the biggest trap for men is you damaged. Like you said, you know where those cracks are. And you're not going to do nothing about it. You're setting yourself up to make them walls collapse.
Right. And you're literally walking through your own home trying to actually put, putty or mud over these cracks so nobody will see them. Because like you said, you want to put furniture, you want to put big screen TVs, you want to do all this stuff to it. You put in your Fendi, you got your Gucci, you got your Lambo, you got all this stuff. And so what you're trying to do is you're literally trying to cover up some actual real brokenness that's there. And you can really look at it when you look across the industry. I was just talking about this to a friend of mine, and we were talking about like Dame Dash, and and you can just see how broken he is. Like to only be still so angry in life at this part of your life, show that you just have some brokenness. And then if you ever follow him and in his family and all that stuff, and then you can kind of see how it leaks all the way through. And it's like, that to me, and I'm only talking about it because basically his life this stuff has already played out over TV. Like he's on, this is a TV situation. This is not, I'm just talking about him because, but this is like his life played out over television. And I'm looking at it and it's
Yeah.
just my perspective or the way I'm looking at it. I'm like, a broken dude. And then you created broken kids. And so, and even his own son said, it was like, dude, it's something messed up. Like we are a messed up family. And it stems from you, Dad. Like you jacked up and now you got us all jacked up. And so like, and that's why, just to go back what you said, like, so that stuff is messed up. Like
You
his son
know.
his son is able to see that, dude, not just my foundation is cracked up, but it's cracked because basically it's inherited because my dad's foundation is cracked up. So when you watching the show, his son is literally trying to find out how not to be. So his son is literally, him and his sister are trying to find out how not to be. And this is no knock on Dame. It's just that we're talking about being burned in life. He felt like he got burned in life. So Dame had turned, I'm sure he was a different guy before he got burned by Jay-Z and all other stuff that he said he was burned by.
He was a different guy before the burn.
He was a different guy before he became this new guy after a burn, but not having that real relationship with Christ or actually accountability, just saying, you know what? I've learned from that. I definitely gonna go a different way, but that you only know if you've moved out of that space when you don't have any anger attached to it. Like when there's no anger, bitterness, resentment, when you don't have any of that, you know that you have now moved on. You've actually a healed person. That's one thing I love about me and my dad. Like, so me and my dad are like, if I could just twist my finger one more time, that's how tight we are. Yeah, it's just like we're
arthritic kind of
dude. I mean, we're very, very tight, but it was basically because of ownership.
Yeah.
And my dad, me and him had a good long talk, man, and it was just ownership. And I told him, I was like, you having that ownership, it literally helped set me free on my end. Like I wasn't going to do it, but I really felt like, man.
Wow.
So it wasn't me dreaming like I saw A, B, and C. It did happen. Like you said, my father did ask for forgiveness. I did forgive him because I have a relationship with Christ. My dad does now. Now we've inserted Christ in there, which is the ultimate healer. So of course, that's why my dad are like this. It's not because
you just said a thing. When you fix the foundation, the whole house feels it.
The whole house, everything, and even me and my dad both, we talked about
everything you connected to.
Everything connected to my dad moved in the right direction.
Alignment. Yeah.
Listen, all aligned then. My sister thriving, my brothers are thriving, everybody is moving.
Man, that's awesome.
And listen, and my mom and dad never got back married or anything, but my mom and my dad have a great relationship. Which now we glean from that relationship. So we glean that.
Are they both remarried?
My dad is remarried. My mom is not.
Okay.
So to watch that and to watch what they have, even from there, being able to come for Christmas and all of that kind of stuff, man, that stuff is like really empowering, especially for like grandkids and stuff, to be able to see that, man, our grandparents made something really good out of a situation that was really, really bad. Because some people still haven't even gotten over it. Like I know people who parents are it's still not right. It's like, y'all been divorced for like 40 years. Like somebody should have been given that up, but no one ever went back to actually fix the foundation. And if you, hey fellas, look at my eyes, man. If you screwed up a woman, if you screwed up your kids or something, the only way to really make it work is just go back and apologize and really have a sit down. Like, don't call them over the phone. Don't text them. Go and sit face to face and tell them how messed up you were, how jacked up. Don't talk about what your mama did and what your cousin did. No, this is what I did.
Take ownership.
When you take full ownership, I don't care how bad it was, your people around you will forgive you when you take ownership. The only time when you're in a jam is when men don't take ownership. So when you hear women ranting and men are this and men bashing and stuff like that, it's only because men just won't take ownership of their crap.
And I get it. I completely get it. That can be hard to do because it's like the word humility looks just like the word humiliation. Like it's like they right there, and it's like I don't want to be humiliated, but no, just be humble and it's like take the lower position. Be willing to take the lower position because that's where the foundation begins in the first place. Because if you take that lower position, like things can be built on that. It's like so
Yeah.
sometimes you got to be willing to be that rock and be that consistency and do the right thing. And I
Yeah.
get sometimes it's not hard because of temptation or whatever. Sometimes it's hard to do the right thing because it's humiliating to come back and
Right.
say, you know what, as a man, I'm embarrassed to say I made a mistake. Take ownership, and you may cry when you do it. You may be embarrassed. Listen, man, feel those feelings, dude. You'll be all right. Like, like do a push up
I
afterwards.
mean,
I promise you, you're still tough. But like your children need to see that. Your brother needs to see that. Your neighbors, like somebody needs to see a man walk in the power of humility because you can build a nation off that. You can build a
right.
family. It can restore a community. So it can be hard and it can be embarrassing, especially when you know you messed up. But I'll
Right.
tell you what, that humiliation only lasts for a moment. The humility is what's going to be that decision, that building
Right.
brick. Now you building from a good place. And I know it's hard to do, but it'll benefit you in the long run to be
Right.
humble, admit where you may have had an opportunity, and then do better the next time. Make a
Right.
better decision next time. If they say, "Cool, we forgive you," and you have a whole Tyler Perry movie, hey, that's beautiful. But sometimes they're still mad at you. They still
Yep.
give them time to heal because your
Yeah,
actions may
man.
have caused consequences. So give people time
Right.
to heal. Don't get mad if they don't heal right away just because you got it together. Now they gotta get everybody gotta get healed because you want to get healed. It don't work like that,
Right.
Playboy. Give
It
them
don't
time
work
to
like
heal,
that.
but
Right.
do the right thing. Like
Yep.
foster that healing by you starting it. Do the right thing, and ultimately keep doing the right thing. Keep doing the right thing. Keep being humble. Keep taking that L. And that L is gonna begin. You're gonna learn from it, and after a while,
Right.
you're gonna look back and it's like things are starting to get better. Something in
Yeah.
you is gonna heal, and that
Yep.
healing becomes contagious. So it can be
Yep.
hard, but I strongly encourage you to do what you need to do to fix those things where there may have been some opportunity.
Yeah, and basically, and we're gonna be getting out of here in a minute. But the thing is that we just want to, we're talking about being burned and all that stuff, but we want to be able to change the trajectory for those that we may have mismanaged time, energy, self control, whatever we mismanage. When we all take ownership of it, we end up then we turn around and change the trajectory. So where you may have been out of your son life for 12 years. I promise you, if you go through that process, take those lumps, you'll change its trajectory because every son needs his father. Every daughter needs their father. They need their father. Every brother needs his brother. Like every sister needs her brother. I mean, you're way more wanted and needed than you think you are. But the thing is that it just takes ownership. I own it. And like you said, sometimes people are gonna say, "Hey, man, we've been waiting. Come on in." Sometimes they're gonna say, "Dude, you did a lot, and I don't believe you." And so now, what do you have to do? Well, you have to make them believe you. Yes, it's gonna take some time. That's why faith is right in the middle of business and relationship. When they tell you that you're gonna have to get it and show them, then that's when you really lock into Christ. You lock into the Word of God. You lock into praying. If you can't pray yourself, find someone who can actually help you understand prayer. I mean, the whole Christian part of this life is based around you winning from the fruits of the Spirit angle, like self-control, patience, kindness, me. That's what Christianity provides you. When somebody says, "Man, how do I become Christ-like?" Christ-like means that you nailing and you're trying to go after those fruits of the Spirit every single day, because that is the only way that the world knows that you're different from them, is that you're producing fruit from out of those fruits of the Spirit. When you shouldn't have self-control, you do have self-control. When you did,
Yeah,
when everybody has no patience, and then you show patience, people go, "Man, you cut different, bro."
yeah,
Like how you go, how all of this stuff and this and this and this, man, and you just like this. And then that's when you look at them and say, "It's not really me, man. It's just I have a relationship with God, and in that I'm able to do that. If I don't have that, I'm just like you. I'm tearing this
exactly.
place up." I mean, me and you, we laugh about that like all the time. You said, I remember me and you was talking about something, and you was like, "Q, I can't believe you didn't even flinch." And I'm like, "Well, how if you're looking to me for something, how can I not? Like, how can I hold up the words that I've given you before this situation came up? I told you that, hey, I'm consistent. I'm this, I'm that. So when something come up, I gotta hold true to that. But I can only do that with a relationship with Christ. I can't meet those demands
I'm getting
in
in
my
heaven with a D minus. Like I'm barely passing. D's get degrees though, so it's like.
Listen, they do.
But
You
how
gotta.
I got a D minus? I got like my heavenly GPA. I'm barely passing. Like I get extra credit because of the blood. Like I'm
Listen,
barely passing, but I'm gonna make
no,
it.
listen. I think 99% of our grade is the blood. And I'm going to tell you why, because there's actually no good here. Your heart is wicked. The mind needs to be renewed every second of the hour on the second of the second. Every second on the second, your mind has to be renewed. Not daily, but it's got to be renewed every second on the second, because anything that flashes through these eye gates triggers
Yeah,
you to have to renew your mind. Anything
real
that
talk.
goes in these ears, listen, renew
Yeah,
your anything that comes out of your mouth,
yeah.
renew your mind, dude. And
Every
so
day. Cause you
every
can't see this drawer right now, but I got a cuss word on deck. I keep one. Just in case things go the wrong way. I I'm looking at 7 right now. Seriously. So it's like like I gotta renew my mind every day. And here's
every
the thing.
day
Like I need to get a new drawer, but I keep them in here just in case. Because every now and again,
you say
it brews up. It comes through
you
strong.
say
You feel me?
something.
It comes through. I'm ready. But
Listen,
like you have to renew your mind daily because I'm always. I live in grace. I try to really every day. I'm getting better. But this drawer, I got some cuss words in here for you. I got some jokes about your mama in here.
I
Like
know
I gotta kill. I gotta die to that man every day
every
because
every day.
every day I gotta die to that man.
Every day. And the thing is that's what people, and I know you guys, you look at people and you go, man, these guys got this together. And the work it takes with building a relationship with Christ, because salvation covers you for salvation to make it to heaven. Never get confused with your works as if it paves some way for you to make it into heaven. There's absolutely nothing that you can do for what Jesus did for you. So don't get that confused. Like, man, Christianity is so tough because I'm gonna have to do. No, you got it twisted. There's nothing that you can do. There's absolutely nothing that you can bring to the table to benefit, to give you any kudos, to give you any uplift, no handover or nothing when it comes to Christianity. There's nothing that you can do. So my thing is that when we're talking about faith, this is something that you should really be looking into, because basically it actually helps you, because 99% of it is covered by the blood. And then there's that 1% that you got to continue to pray, fast, do all that stuff. Because see, in that, you're still going to be jacking up. And that's why I give it 99% to the blood, because in your 1%, in your praying, fasting, going to church, praying, trying to be right, you're still going to be making all of these mistakes and trying to, and over time you'll start letting stuff fall off, but you're going to be making these mistakes. And thank God that, that grace and that blood covers such a large amount of you making it to heaven. Like confessing with your mouth and believing in your heart, that is 99%. That got you right on in there. And so then you got this 1% that you got to really work with that says, okay, now I got to die to myself. I got to die to my flesh. I got to do this. But how do I do that? I got to go dip into the 99%.
Yeah, that 99%, that's like affirmative action. I wouldn't get in without it.
Listen, no, not you. No one. The only person that made it in without any of that stuff was Jesus. He's the only one that had 100%. He's the only one.
Yeah,
Everybody else.
You gotta sponsor my whole. I need full ride scholarship.
Listen, everybody does. Everybody needs it. And I think that what it is that you keep pushing towards those fruits of the spirit. And next time we have on here, I'll have a list of them and we'll bring them up. And you can take a screenshot of these, because the fruits of the spirit is something when you join the Christianity team and give your life over to Christ and start, getting deep into that and find out exactly what does God want from you, you'll literally find out that being Christ-like is the ultimate goal. If you're always striving to be Christ-like, the other stuff literally would just kind of fall into where it needs to be. You won't be in a battle with stuff, because basically I'm only looking at the fruits of the spirit. And that has been literally, dude, to tell you, that's been my prayer like for the last 2 or 3 months, is that every day I ask God to make to give me the will and that give me that strength to actually do and be those fruits of the spirit, so that people can see a difference in me.
Yeah.
Don't call yourself a Christian and there's no difference. You want to have a difference. You can't be a Christian and you look like everybody else. And we'll dive in. Like, this is a 3-piece here, but hopefully Tia come back, man, and we'll break each one of these: relationship, faith, and business, and we'll give them their own attention so that we can really dive in from a scriptural base when we're talking about faith, and then some real business terminology to be able to talk about building ourselves with mismanagement and then management and all that stuff. So we had our hour marker, man. Listen, I appreciate it. Me and you, we could talk for about 6 hours on here. And so what I want to do is I'm gonna close out. Tell the people how they can get at you, man. This guy's an author. He's got a great book. Tell them about the books. Tell them about the business. Tell them about the realtor business. Just go ahead, give them everything, how they can get at you, man.
Yeah, so everything on all social media outlets is just my first and last name. So at Terrance Puryear. It's Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn. Everything is at Terrance Puryear. My website is terrancepuryear.com. That's where you can get my books. My books are basically about leadership, managing our influence as leaders, and also talking about how to grow through different stages of life, even when there's challenges. How do I grow through this to make sure this is a lesson learned and not just a loss that I took? And so my books are about how leaders can learn through the things that they go through and to leverage their experience as a classroom. And so my books are available at my website. The first one is called Does Your Network, which talks about leaders who don't produce results, who want to be able to produce results. The other one is Grow Through It, which talks about that growth, that navigational path to get to a better place, to be an effective leader. Coaching programs to help people who are in business, and it intertwines with leadership. All that stuff is available on my website. So you can go to terrancepuryear.com to check that out. Real estate is more so my wife's side of the business. So for people who are looking to understand the path towards home ownership, or maybe you're looking to sell or get your house on the market, she specializes in all things related to real estate. So all that stuff is under the umbrella of we're a husband and wife team. And so that's kind of what we do. And you can find her information by going to my information, because I share all her stuff.
Right.
Her name is Tayleon, Tayleom. Same thing, at Tayleon on our social media outlets. So yeah, man, I appreciate the chance to come on and chop it up. I'm looking forward to coming back. If you'll have me, and yeah, man, this is great conversation.
All right, man. Hey, so you see how you guys can get at Big T over there, man, on all social media platforms at Terrance Puryear. And this is your boy Q. You guys know where you can find us on all your downloads, all your streaming social media platforms for the podcast. Please share with somebody, leave comments, and we'll get back at you. This is your boy Q. Peace out.